forget about what I do for a living as the TV, one of the TV voices of the Bears. As a season ticket holder, I want her to have the greatest experience to watch NFL football. And that's going to take place at Arlington Heights, where the Bears can build their own stadium. They can build it with all the thrills and whistles that you see in SoFi or Allegiant, or what they're going to create in Buffalo coming up, or even Minnesota with their dome stadium right now. And for the Bears, they have all this opportunity to make all this revenue that they can then use in turn to create a Super Bowl winner.
My dad first taught me the term guilty by association probably when I was like 12 or 13 years old. I didn't really understand what it meant back then, but as I got older, I started to really comprehend it. I think the older I get, the more and more relevant it becomes. Who you associate with and who you hang out with gives you a reputation, and that reputation will often precede you in future relationships. This term, rightfully so, has a negative connotation. What is the opposite of this term, though? How do you say it in a positive light? For me, with today's guest, it might be podcast guest by association. The man I'm bringing to the show today doesn't know me. He knows of me from both of us being out and about in Chicago over the years. He's a media personality. I've been hearing his name for probably my whole adult life, whereas he has probably heard my name here and there the last 10 years or so, maybe more, maybe less. The time doesn't matter. It's the capacity he was hearing my name in that matters. We were at the same charity events, the same black tie galas, the same restaurants. Were we ever at the same table? Maybe here and there. Have we spoken live? Yeah, a few times. We're like peripheral friends. We roll in the same circles. We know each other. But he doesn't owe me shit. Not a damn thing. However, here we are in the middle of the fall, and he is agreeing to be on my podcast. The guy hosts 5 TV shows a week, and they center around the Chicago Bears. It's the middle of the fall. You think he has time for this shit? Had he seen me with a bunch of degenerates every time we crossed paths, you think he would have made this happen for me? He could have easily told me, I have 5 of my own shows and been on TV for 4 decades. Fuck you and your new podcast, John. But he didn't. How you carry yourself matters. People pay attention and remember actions or inactions. If you sell a product or service and like to hobnob with the wealthy to pipeline your business, but you're also running around with a lampshade on your head at 2 a.m, people remember that. It undoes what you are trying to do. If you're a dick to the waitress or try to big time the door guy or patronize an Uber driver, people remember that kind of shit too. Pay attention to how you carry yourself and who you hang out with, especially if you're trying to build your business or your brand. So without further ado, I introduce a Chicago broadcast journalism sportscasting veteran who you can see every night on Fox, who also anchors Bears Game Day Live, Bears Game Night Live, Bears Recap, and Bears Blitz, who also hosts a TV show called Making Money in Real Estate, as well as having some legendary interviews all the way back in the 90s with the GOAT, Michael Jordan. Not to mention, we'll also touch on his entrepreneurial spirit in the restaurant business. I welcome an Oak Lawn Southsider, Chicago legend, Lou Canellis, to the show.
Hey, John, what's happening?
Thanks for coming, man. Thanks for coming. And I can't thank you enough, as I kind of said in the monologue there. I know this is a busy time of the year for you. When we think Chicago Bears, we think Lou Canellis. And I mean that as a compliment, okay? That was not a diss there, all right, man?
Good. Yeah, don't blame me for 11 pass attempts the other the other night against the Packers.
Oh my gosh, yeah. So this is going to air a couple weeks out, but I got to tell you, Justin Fields said something like, "I feel bad for Bob in Schaumburg when we lose to the Packers." I'm from Schaumburg. I knew exactly what he meant right there, man.
Feel bad for Lou and from Oak Lawn, that's for sure.
Lou from Oak Lawn, love it, love it. Well, yeah, man. I know we only got you for a limited time here, and I want to be as productive as possible here. So I'm gonna kind of jump right into it, Lou. You know, we talk about the business of NFL stadiums. You know, you got the Rams and the Chargers playing in a $5 billion stadium. You got SoFi. You got the Raiders playing in a $2 billion stadium. The team you're an expert on, the Bears, are looking to move out to the suburbs. Arlington Heights. We got people listening all over the country, but it was an old horse track that's out of business now, and the Bears are looking at moving them there. Lou, you know, does the city of Chicago, do they have any chance of even keeping the Bears when they can't compete with the SoFis and Allegiance of the world, can they?
Well, they can't compete with the SoFis or the Allegiance, but more importantly, they can't compete with the Bears owning their own home.
Okay.
And really, that's the difference here. It's that as long as the Park District owns Soldier Field, the Bears are not entitled to financial opportunities that exist that they'd have by owning their own house. And that's the beauty of the Arlington Heights deal.
Okay.
The Bears can go there. They can take over the racetrack. They can build a stadium to their liking, all right, that is state of the art, that gives their season ticket holders like myself. All right, listen, John, I live right across the street from Soldier Field. I can see inside Soldier Field from my couch. And as a season ticket holder, obviously I'm working on Sundays, but when I send my wife to the game, all right, with our tickets, I would rather her sit in a state-of-the-art stadium that will exist in Arlington Heights as a season ticket holder. Forget about what I do for a living as the TV, one of the TV voices of the Bears. As a season ticket holder, I want her to have the greatest experience to watch NFL football. And that's going to take place at Arlington Heights, where the Bears can build their own stadium. They can build it with all the thrills and whistles that you see in SoFi or Allegiant, or what they're going to create in Buffalo coming up, or even Minnesota with their dome stadium right now. And for the Bears, they have all this opportunity to make all this revenue that they can then use in turn to create a Super Bowl winner.
Well, it worked for the Rams, didn't it?
Yeah, hell yes, it did work for the Rams.
Yeah.
And who knows what's going to happen in Vegas and Buffalo and all the other teams. This is where sports franchises are going, where they own most of their stadium or all of their stadium. They use little taxpayer money. Kudos to the Bears organization for having a meeting with Arlington Heights, the community, the taxpayers out there, and for the Bears to say, listen, you're right. We don't want your money to build our house. We'll build our own house. But if we're going to bring this beautiful stadium to Arlington Heights, which is going to generate millions and hundreds of millions of dollars of tax revenue, then you guys should actually help out building the roads and whatever we're going to decide with the entertainment district. So I think it's a great move all around.
Yeah.
I'm sorry it's going to cost us the opportunity to continue to play at Soldier Field because I'm a Chicago kid. I grew up watching Bears football. I've been a season ticket holder since my godfather passed away at the end of the 60s. Okay, man? So I have been trucking my ass out there, all right, since the 71 season when they made the move with my dad and my mom, okay? I love the lakefront. It should have never come this far, but it did. And congratulations to George McCaskey and Ted Phillips and the organization for finding a piece of land where they can create and build their home.
And this is coming from a guy that grew up in Oak Lawn on the southwest side, okay? Arlington Heights, for those that aren't aware, is on the northwest side. These two suburbs don't get farther than that from each other. And as a South Suburban guy, because I was thinking a lot of these South Suburban guys would be pissed it's in Arlington Heights. You just adding another 30, 40 minutes to your drive. I know you're downtown right now, but you still represent.
Oh,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah.
And I get
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
But until those guys that I grew up with on the South Side, whether
Mhm.
it's Oak Lawn or Burbank or Alsip or Tinley Park
Yeah.
or Orland Park or Frankfurt, I'm going further and further south,
Mhm.
by
Yeah.
Lincoln Way, Johnny Boy, where we used to play Lincoln Way when I was playing in, what was it, the Sicko West, I believe, when I was
Okay.
playing baseball at Oak Lawn. Um, it's going to be an inconvenience to get there for all these
Mhm.
fans. But once there, the
Mhm.
experience will be unbelievable.
Yep.
You can make a day of it. You
Yep.
will feel proud as a season ticket holder. You
Yeah.
won't sit on Lakeshore Drive for an hour to get into the parking lot.
That's right. That's right.
Honestly, you will be a proud season ticket holder.
That's right. Although you're dating yourself calling it Lakeshore Drive, right? We changed
Oh,
that a
yeah.
couple years.
Sorry.
What is it
There's
called? I did.
Drive. Is that what it is?
Yeah.
Sorry.
I forget. Hey, it's still the Sears Tower too, if you ask me, man. It's one more comment on that before we move on to a different subject. When you say it's a win-win-win, it might be a win-win, in my opinion, for the city of Chicago too. They're probably handcuffed a little bit with what the lease terms are that the Bears force them to have. They're going to be able to do so much more with that stadium. And Lou, even though your wife's going to be driving a little bit further for the games, you're probably going to have Metallica, Guns N' Roses, Smashing Pumpkins, Britney Spears, a bunch of concerts like that right across the street from your house if this goes this way.
John, I saw Coldplay there Memorial Day weekend.
Yep.
Maybe one of the top 3 concerts I've ever been to. Number 1, I'm a Coldplay fan. Number 2, they put on a great show. But number 3, there is not a better backdrop
Mhm.
anywhere.
Oh yeah.
Not in LA at SoFi, not at Allegiant in Las Vegas. It is the greatest backdrop in the world. The only thing that might compare would be if you threw a concert in Brooklyn,
Yeah.
okay,
Yeah.
and you had the backdrop of Manhattan behind you at the George Washington Bridge.
Right. That would be
That's
cool.
I
Yeah.
I think it's listen. Chicago is the most beautiful city in the world. I don't care what anyone says.
Mhm.
Okay, and I love where Soldier Field sits. If the possibility existed to put a dome on it 2 or 3 years ago, then my only wish was that the city would have stepped up and the mayor would have said, "George McCaskey, let's sit down. You guys deserve better. We have these plans. Okay. We'd love to keep the Bears in Chicago. All right. And let's see if we can work something out." Mayor Lightfoot chose not to do that for her reasons. Okay. I'm not going to speculate on why she didn't do it, but she didn't do it, opening up the door for an Arlington Heights possibility.
Yeah.
And it's worked.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's interesting too. If you talk about the NFL just globally, people are getting creative, right? LA a few years ago didn't have any teams. Now they got 2. And the Chargers are, I think, renting the Rams stadium. And the Chargers have a pretty good franchise as well. Vegas, who would have thought they'd ever have a professional sports team? And look at them now. Pretty cool.
I think the number is, and because it's funny, fans always say, John, oh, how can you call them the Chicago Bears? I think the number is 12 NFL franchises have their homes in cities that don't have the moniker that they use.
Is that right?
So
Okay.
Dallas, okay. If I'm not mistaken, Jerry's World is in
Arlington, I think. Arlington.
Or no, the old spot was in Arlington.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure Jerry's World is in Fort Worth. I think. All I know is maybe you're right. Maybe it is Arlington, but even San Francisco, Levi Stadium. Okay, it's in Santa Clara.
Okay.
It's not in downtown San Francisco. L.A. Is SoFi's in Inglewood.
Yep.
So it doesn't have where the Jets and Giants play. It's in New Jersey.
Yep.
It's in the Meadowlands.
Yep.
It's not in New York City. So it still works.
Yeah. Well, and I'll tell you what, Arlington Heights as a population of that township is probably almost as big as Green Bay, more similar in size to Green Bay than Chicago is. So maybe we'll start playing like they have the last 20 years. Who knows?
Let's hope so.
Yeah, man. So, hey, Lou, shifting gears here. You're living the dream, man. Every man in America, not even man, every sports fan in America at some point wants your job. You're on TV talking about stuff you love. You've been doing it forever. And in 2000% raise, we talk about the cream of the crop rising to the top, being the best salesperson you could be in your office, being the best manager you could be, whatever the case is, strive and give yourself options once you're up there on the top, man. Do the best that you can. You're in a true a true supply and demand industry. Again, on one hand, everybody wants your job. That's the supply. Everybody wants your job. And then the other side of that is, that was the demand. And then the supply is, there's only so many of them, especially ones that are on TV. You could be a guy like me doing a podcast and, talking to YouTube, but to be on TV for as long as you have, man, could you give some advice to our audience, maybe about your work ethic and really, what do you owe to your habits that have helped you persevere?
I owe it all to my mom and dad. Unfortunately, I lost my mom about 5 weeks ago, and it really gave me an opportunity to think back to what mom did for Lou and the hard work that they both instilled in me. It's the reason why I am where I am today. Mom held 2 full-time jobs, Chicago public school teacher for 38 years. Dad ran a dry cleaners that was in the family for 60 on the southwest side of Chicago, 69th and Western, and trucked and went to work every morning at 5:30, 6 o'clock, rain, sleet, cold, you name it, working on a concrete floor, all right, pulling out dirty clothes out of cleaning machines, all right, and didn't get home till 7. So when you grow up and see that, actually very much like what Matt Eberflus is going through now, if you read the background of Matt Eberflus's story, he's the head coach of the Bears now. His father was an electrician, and Matt talks about how he used to watch his dad when he was a young boy come home, and his hands were so broken and dirty and crusty from working in the cold that his mother had to used to put cream on them every night just so they wouldn't crack. Well,
wow.
It's similar to what my dad went through. My dad, when he realized he had final stage cancer, I couldn't get him to go to the hospital until from the knee down had turned purple.
Wow.
And he went from working in frostbite. Okay. And they told him that they had to amputate his leg from the knee down.
Oh,
That's the kind of work ethic he had, John, to make sure that myself and my 2 brothers had an education, were kept in line growing up on the South Side, and understood the importance of putting food on the table, respecting your elders, respecting law enforcement, okay, which isn't something I want to get into, but just respect out there.
Right.
And when you ask me, where does it all come from? How do I end up now at the age of 58 working in this business for 35 plus years? It's because of that. And I always wanted to make them both proud because they did so much for me to get to that point. And bless my dad, he said to me, I don't want you to take over the cleaners. I want you to chase your dream. My dream wasn't running the cleaners at 69th and Western. My dream was to play baseball. And, most guys out there, you realize whether it's your high school days or you're able to play in college or semi-pro, you realize that 0.5% that actually makes it to the pro level, okay, you have ultimate respect for. And the other 99.5, that's where you're grouped, and you better have a backup plan. And my backup plan was, hell, I'm a sports fan. If I'm not going to play it, let's make a few bucks and broadcast it.
Yeah. Lou, I'm so glad you brought that up about your mom. You and I have a mutual friend. I won't say it on air here, but we have a mutual friend in Arizona that's a big fan of yours and both of ours, and we both like her a lot. And she had mentioned to me about your mom passing recently. I'd lost my mom a few years ago, so I wasn't sure if I was going to bring that up, and you did it for me. So thank you for telling that story, man.
Of course. And my apologies to you and my sympathies to you for losing mom. Listen, I was the oldest, and you lose mom and it really sets you back. Yeah,
it really does. And I know exactly what you're talking about too with, like for me, okay, so you're doing everything to impress your parents almost, or that's how I always was too. I had that same mindset. I want to make my parents proud. You know what I mean? And I lost them both in the last, my dad a couple years ago, and my mom a few years before that. And it's like, all right, well, what are we doing here? You kind of try to reinvent yourself a little bit. I feel like, I don't know, you might be
But
going through
John,
that a little bit.
the spirit still lives.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know that they're watching us. The spirit still lives. It drives me every day. Actually, I have her picture right here in my office. You can't see it, but I'm looking at it right now. And yeah, I want her
Mm.
around all the time.
Yeah. Well, that's awesome, man. That's awesome. Isn't it? I never would have knew this until I was in this position. When you lose a parent, like the immediate, I don't know, like almost like a bond you have somebody if you, that they know, they understand it, and it's hard to even fathom when you don't. But I'm gonna move off of this if it's all right with you. I'm gonna get emotional. You're a Chicago guy. Good Michael Jordan story. What do you think?
Well, those were the greatest days of my career. And I love where my career is right now, but it's tough, you know, when you're traveling with arguably the greatest show in sports, for over a course of what was a 9-year run, those Bulls went on. And you're able to build everlasting friendships with guys like Ron Harper, who had his room next to my room for 3 years, who is one of the greatest gentlemen I've met in my life. Bill Wennington, Judd Bushler, Steve Kerr sat behind me on the bus. Um, Scottie Pippen, Dennis Rodman, who came to my Greek restaurant when he came to Chicago recently,
Awesome.
just to support me. And Michael Jordan, who was so gracious with his time after every game over a 3-year period, where he and I talked, whether it was on the court at the United Center or it was outside the locker room on the road. I will always be indebted to him for that, because we all have that 10 seconds of fame that we hope catapults our career or what we want to do the rest of our life. That was mine, except it wasn't 10 seconds. It was 3 seasons. And he did more for my career than anything. Here, I did a true story. I did a speaking engagement with Brian Urlacher last night
Okay.
here in Chicago.
Yep.
And Urlacher and I became very close friends. I flew to Lovington, New Mexico for his mother's funeral.
Mm.
He reached out to me when I lost my mom. I was at his wedding. We did a show together for 3 years here in Chicago. That relationship was created because of the trust he saw that MJ had in me.
Really?
That it was more than just being this reporter who may have been privy to certain things, stories, but realized my role. And my role was to report on what was happening on the basketball court, at practice,
Mm-hmm.
and in games.
Yep.
Not what I saw off the court.
Boom.
Okay, that was a relationship that I had, a personal relationship. Same thing with Brian. And Brian told a story yesterday to an audience, and he said that Lou was the only guy, the only reporter. He was going through a bad stretch with the media.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. And he said, Lou was the only reporter I trusted.
For those that aren't aware, and I'm not going to tell the whole story, but he had a bad run there, and it included kids and women and other things, and it wasn't looking too good. So
it included one of the local tabloids
Mhm.
doing something with one of his kids. And I respect now. Listen, as a father, I completely get his anger.
Mhm.
All right. Some things are off limits.
Yep.
And we were able to build a relationship of trust. And I think that is overlooked in my business. A lot of guys get it. A lot of your reporters, okay, I won't mention names, but guys that have been around for 40 years, 50 years doing this, if you dig deep and find out about the relationships that they have with managers, coaches, and players out there, it's everlasting relationships, because they were told things or saw things in confidence
Yep.
that they never shared with the world because it wasn't their job.
Mhm.
And the stories that I have with Michael, okay, are stories of just great respect that we had towards each other.
Yep.
And me to be able to tell you that he respected me as a reporter means
Mhm.
everything in my business.
Yeah.
Because not one athlete in this world, okay, not one athlete in this world dealt with more reporters than Michael Jordan did.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Did you follow him? Were you still following him when he was playing baseball?
Of course,
Okay,
of
but
course. I didn't
yeah.
go to Birmingham. I didn't
Okay.
go to Birmingham. I was here in Chicago, but I
Mm,
followed his career.
yeah.
And then when Michael walked away from the game the second time before he started playing with the Wizards, I was one of two reporters he invited daily to his workouts, along with Rick Tellender, who's a terrific sports writer in Chicago. And Rick and I would go every day to what was it called? Hoops on the West Side, which is now the West Loop. And we would watch him work out with Tim Grover. It was actually the first time I was in the weight room when a young LeBron James in high school
Really?
came with his mother to sit down and talk to MJ in the
Wow.
weight.
That's pretty cool.
And MJ at that time was working out with all the Chicago guys. So Dwayne Wade would be in town, Antoine Walker, Michael Finley, who plays a proviso kid, and they would scrimmage. And MJ would try to get his game on back on track after he left the Bulls to see if he could play with the Wizards. And he did. And to me, that was the ultimate sign of respect that he would allow me to be part of that.
Yeah.
But I didn't jump on TV and say, "Hey, I saw MJ do this," or "I don't think he
Right.
can do that
Yeah.
more." I soaked everything in, so if he did come back, I could reference those moments.
Oh,
So
yeah.
those are the memories that I have of Michael Jordan.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And to some people listening, you think Michael Jordan, and we've all had celebrity encounters of some sort, but Michael Jordan's just such a other level for so many of us. I mean, I was in Europe this summer, and people would ask, "Where are you from?" And the United States. Oh, where part? I say Chicago. They go, "Oh, Michael Jordan. Oh, Michael Jordan." Like Michael Jordan is bigger than Chicago. Okay, in a lot of ways.
Greatest athlete of all time. I mean,
Yeah,
in all
yeah,
due
yeah.
respect to Muhammad Ali.
Yeah, I'm with you on that, man. I'm with you on that. Well, hey, I want to make sure we cover a couple other things. But before we talk about your entrepreneurial endeavors in restaurants, which I think is extremely interesting, by the way, I'd like to get your take on the scene overall. When you look at a city like Chicago, or it could be New York, it could be LA, or any big city. Lou, you're out and about. Your Monica, your wife, your beautiful wife, is a known realtor around town, and you guys are known faces. You're part of the fabric of Chicago. You're out in River North, Gold Coast, and people see you around. In your opinion, before we get into your restaurants, in your opinion, why do so many restaurants come and go? Why are they popular for a year or two, and then they change names and they're not there anymore?
Well, the life expectancy of a restaurant, if you can make it to the 3-year mark,
Mm-hmm.
then you've hit a grand slam. So that's why I have the ultimate respect for guys like Rich Melman, who built Let Us Entertain You, but will tell you that his first restaurant failed. Okay. Um, Phil Stefani, who I am blessed now to work with on a project. Um, these guys are the godfathers of restaurant business, at least in the city of Chicago. Why do they come and go, John? Because I think they have poor operators.
Okay.
And in some cases, poor locations,
Mhm.
location, location, location. I get
Yep.
it. But my operating partner is a guy named Louis Alexakis, who is as fine an operator as I've ever seen. And I've been in a bad deal. We were interviewing for a GM position at one of our restaurants, and we had a candidate come in and he told me about all his successes. And I said, I'm not interested in the successes. I want to know where you failed.
Okay.
I didn't. I said, you had to have somewhere.
Right.
It was with an employee that worked under you.
Mm.
But tell me how you handled failure.
Yep.
Because I failed. I owned a restaurant in
Mm.
Chicago that failed.
Mm.
First one I was part of was called the Hunt Club. Kitty
Mhm.
corner to Gibson's, huge success,
Oh yeah.
great sports bar.
Oh yeah.
Second one I was part of was called Reverie, all right, which unfortunately failed because the operating partner wasn't the right guy. And failed for me personally to the tune of 6 figures. So what I tell people, because they said, "Oh my God, it's the worst investment in the world. Boy, do you regret losing all that money?" I actually don't, because I look at it as an education, a Northwestern business
Yeah.
education
Right.
in what not to do in the
Yeah.
restaurant business. So now when we opened up Avli,
Uh-huh.
which is the Greek restaurant that I own. um, I knew as a guy, listen, I'm not a restaurateur. I am nowhere near the expert in the business that my partner is. All right. But I at least can offer, being in the city, because he came from Winnetka, I can at least offer to him where I think the mindset is of people that live in the city, and what I think we should do with our menu, with our pricing of our menu, who our target audience is, where we should build our restaurant, what type of employees should we take on? Do we want a certain vibe that will survive? That trendy crowd will come the first 6 months,
Boom.
but then
Yep.
guess what? They're moving on to the next joint,
Yeah.
unless
Yeah.
unless you have good food and great service,
Yeah.
and you're priced accordingly. If you have good food, great service, and priced accordingly, they will always come back. They'll still hit the new spots, Johnny boy,
Yep.
but they will always come back when they want that go-to. Hey,
Yeah.
listen, I got my friend John Cerasani in town
Yeah.
from LA,
Yeah.
and I want to make sure he gets a good meal and great service, and he's
Yeah.
happy and it's got a little bit of a vibe, and
Yep.
he's going to walk away a happy customer. I'm going to send him there.
Yep.
Okay, and then we'll tell him to meet me at the trendy spot for a drink afterwards.
Right, right. Well, and I compliment you on that, man. I mean, Avli, where it's located, for those that don't know Chicago, if you visited Chicago, you've probably been to Millennium Park, the Bean, the Big Bean, and Lou's right there. His spot's right there, and I think a lot of times, Lou, people dismiss. Okay, well, you got some local celebrity involvement. Lou's there, man. I see him at the place, and even the one he just talked about that didn't end up working out. I was at that place too. I think that I didn't know about the operator, Lou, on that place. I thought it was maybe not the best location, but Lou, I'd see Lou there. I went there probably 5 times, and maybe 4 of them. You were actually there, Lou.
But and ownership on site is important, John.
Yep.
But I'll tell you exactly what I told Louis, my partner, when we first, started talking about partnering up. I said, I will get the people there. You will make us a success, because if our service isn't good, if our food is below average, they won't come back. They'll always be able to run into me on the street or at a party or at a game, and they'll say, "Yeah, remember when I saw you at your joint?" They won't say, "Yeah, I was just at your joint 2 nights ago, and I
Yep.
took my mom for her birthday."
Mm,
Okay, where it's can't
awesome.
miss. You can't
Yeah.
disappoint mom.
Yep.
And because Louis is such a great operator,
Yeah.
they keep coming back.
I love that. And you talked about Hunt Club. I'm involved. You probably don't even know this. I'm involved with Old Crow Smokehouse, and they've been
Great.
they've been wildly successful.
concept.
We've now expanded into California and Huntington Beach. So it's, but it's everything you're saying. It's all the operators. It ain't us investors. It's the operators making it happen.
Yeah, but John, don't diminish what you bring to the table, because I think that the value of the right investor is so critically important,
Mhm.
because no one's going to help promote it like John Cerasani
Yeah.
if he's
Right.
proud of it.
Yep.
Listen, if the operator is failing, then you're kind of like, no, yeah, you're not even telling me that you old cross or you're an investor.
Exactly.
If you're proud of it, you're like,
Yeah.
yeah, man, I'm Old Crow. You need
Yeah.
a reservation? Let me help you get in.
Yeah. That's
That's
right. That's right.
priceless, because I don't hang out with your crowd. So I want your crowd there to kind of expand the brand.
Oh man, you are spot on, my friend. I'll tell you when Old Crow first opened, because the investors, we'd still pay for our drinks. The last thing you wouldn't do is all the investors coming in drinking for free. And I remember saying to the operating partner, I'm like, dude, is this freaking by the Cubs stadium? We're in Wrigley Field. You're charging me $12 for a shot? He looks at me and goes, you want to make money here or not, man? Good point. I'll gladly pay my $12 a shot. But anyway, hey man, when I remember to, I ask every guest this, and I think you'd have a good one for me. It doesn't have to be sports, doesn't have to be business related. The last question I have for you, Lou, is give a movie recommendation to our audience. Lou Canellis recommends what?
Wall Street.
Wall Street. Okay.
Money never sleeps. My favorite line of all time. And here's why I say money never sleeps. Because number one, Steve Jobs said, if you haven't found what you've loved in life, keep looking, because once you do, hold on to it and do it, because you're going to spend a third of your life every day at work. Right? So I have a tough time sleeping, John, because I love my life.
Yep.
I'm so passionate about forget about my success in the restaurant business now. I am the most blessed man in the world because I love what I do every day. Before I got on this interview with you, I was reading stories on the Bears and how they're going to beat the Texans and getting ready for my sportscast later today. Dude, I would do that. I would read Bears-Texans stories. If I wasn't in the business, I'd be doing it anyway. So to get paid to talk about the Bears and go to games is truly a dream come true. You said that at one point in this interview.
Yeah.
Number one.
Yeah.
Number two, work hard. And if you remember Michael Douglas in that movie, man, he had a swagger, a confidence, bordering cocky. But dude, that guy was as confident and cocky as they came because he knew he was going to win. Okay. So it's my favorite it's my favorite movie. It's my favorite line because I live every day like that. Yeah. I love money. I have a 4-year-old daughter. I need to make sure I set her up because she's going to be around a lot longer than I am.
Yep.
And I just love going to work every day, whether it's at, think about it. Did I need the headache of a restaurant, all right, to continue my life? Oh, but I saw an opportunity to take a brand that I built and maybe capitalize off it if I'm willing to put in the time. And as you touched on, you got to show up.
That's right.
Yeah, Lou Canellis owns Avli. I've never seen him, but he owns Avli. That wouldn't be cool. That's not right.
No, you're there grinded, man.
Every night I make it a point to hit one of the restaurants, okay?
Yep.
And now it's been a tougher juggle with my daughter, who is most important along with my wife in this world. So now I'm trying to juggle 4 things, okay? Family, Fox, Avli. But it's doable. Other people do it. And if you love what you do, it's easy.
Well, you heard it here, everyone. If you're visiting Chicago, make sure you stop by Avli, AVLI, right by Millennium Park. And if you're a local here, you better go check it out. Lou's just an overall great dude, and I've been to his restaurant. Awesome. Thanks a lot, Lou. We really appreciate you for being on 2000% Raised, my friend.
Johnny, you're the man. I follow you on social. I love it. I love that you're having success doing what you're doing, and I'm here to support.
Thanks, man. Thank you for tuning in to 2000% Raise. You can check out more episodes on YouTube, Apple, Spotify, and your favorite podcast apps. Check out the show notes for any websites linked to this episode. I appreciate you tuning in. Remember to like, subscribe, and turn on your notifications, and visit me at 2000percentraised.com, as well as at John Cerasani on TikTok and Instagram. I genuinely appreciate you dropping by.